Oh, good morning. Starting the day off with something of this part here that I would say if I do this here, quite genetical, yes. Now, when it's done that way, how could that person imagine that part? I would say something like putting this on your head in the shower seat. And oftentimes it can be dismantled, but it doesn't make sense right now, it seems. Now, when that person appears to that part, it could be just a wow. The wow meaning that it only has to occur. So it kind of causes this to be still. And with that being said, it could, for example, these things she cannot get in case she has a sup for the United States. Now, it would give her a kind of a key based on home so that it doesn't strike this part of her, which is quite low. Hmm. So if we're getting that part, then we're troubled. Not right. Could have a simple passage there, that lady, and from that African continent, and has problems with clips. So, for example, at the airport, it doesn't quite shake, but can. So you just have to slip your wig off if you have to. No, your natural hair or any bow or any type of these type of things can become quite suspicious. So it just say, I did not do anything about that. Why you have to kind of sense that she has this type of thing going on with herself. I just say her métier and demands these type of things for her métier. So it slap this type of gorge. No. And put it. And there it departs. Now, once we get there, in terms of that type of video content, the girl would say that it kind of goes. Ça monte, ça monte, ça monte, ça monte, ça monte, ça monte. Petit caillou. Ça monte, ça monte, ça monte, ça monte, ça monte. Petit caillou. For these type of pop. And puts it back there. If they're suspicious about that part, then they probably don't like it. But probably as a citizen, you probably cannot have the choice of pulling that out. Concerns everybody by it's demanded perhaps by the Infenui of France. For example, this type of thing could be a way of a simple bling bling, perhaps based on this here, devours that secret and becomes étrange. Étrange, meaning that it monte, ça monte, ça monte, ça monte, ça monte, ça monte, petit caillou. Ça monte, ça monte, oh, petit caillou. And then when that is accomplished, it cannot function this part here of sensitivity, of seeking the life of somebody who kind of is of this caricature, So it would bring the girl back to how these things are kind of done. And once they are, it's understandable, then this part could this part here could do that to them, you're thinking. And the girl would determine it by a koto, not she would determine it by something of a this really couldn't do that to them this can do that to them. And when it does, it could reveal this to them. They're thinking it just empty. So if it had to do that to the Dutchman, then it have a controversy with this type of obelisks. So you just have to go and look at one of my videos on obelisks, and it will explain that once it got to this level here, someone put it in its a tomb, meaning that it probably goes that way and deals with things of, I guess, things that shake. And when it does, they block and cannot move. So to be able to move, sometimes it demands a new land altogether. And that part kind of becomes very suspicious to those type of little gentlemen because of this part, this type of mom who kind of has that plus here and gets back, plus here and gets back. So this part will kind of reveal that knot, and we get stuck. Why it's so important part of the heaven, the universe, of it soothes things. So when it soothes things, it needs you in a probably this category only, and cannot bypass that type of doctrine. So when it doesn't, it permits the girl to be able to get this type of comfort. And oftentimes this type of comfort demands no one to kind of bother. Just thinks. This type of situation was probably time. Now when it does it that way, we will deal with something, and she would do this, something that, and that type of cherubim, it just blocks there, and it blocks there. Now once we get that part, we will sense this part here, and quietly it just takes over and deals with it. So oftentimes we were dealing with probably it cannot be and a 6B, so the B would be controversial, something that's very controversial. So once we understand the B, it could lead to a soothing. So this type of pup, or kind of this co-chore, actually co-chore, I will make that decision for her and she will abide. That's esclavage based on having these type of things going on. It gets bad. Where it cracks the head of that mom and puts things back and start again. And the understanding of it often takes quite a long while, and by then it allows you to accumulate a lot of garbage. And when it does, you have to think that you have to be able to replace those things. Yes, no? I guess based on nature, it becomes angry. And because that country is quite nature, basically 99%, it is not forgiving to them and just starts to react, and it drives them. So once we get there, this and this becomes something that it's there and nobody knows. So the lady actually would be able to do this, but just say it's not really necessary right now. So it just that part and hits hard. Now when we're talking about these type of genetics, it could be acquired at something of this here and not here. So this type of genetics could be acquired here and not here. Oftentimes in the land of Guyana, it stays here. What the girl will do is get advanced, naturally speaking, and not no so. So when I'm dealing with this perturbances, it can crowd the child a little. It's almost like that semen getting crowded, with air because of this. There's a slight thing. So this would this to avoid that part, you have to be able to sense something of this is probably still in the land. Something of this is probably still in the land. And something of this is in the land. And possibly something of this still in the land. So when we have it allows her to be able to get these things out. Now, these type of its cost money in the land, especially from this company here. You will be surprised because that daily data costs. It's set up, but it costs. So the girl, not she could, but it costs. For example, her, perhaps not, but it costs. So you would sense because of this. So I cannot deal with that type of hotels and hotels. What are they going to do? Now, when's that done? Oh, sometimes the girl gets to the airport and she has to get into the line, and by the time she's done, she's here and makes those type of Negroes fall. By the time they get here, see, oftentimes one could have gotten to this point and we've indicated this thing and some out, and crashes. So once that happens, you have to go and get to your suck quickly and leave the person alone. So once that's understandable and you seek this, you will trouble the person for life. But just say that this entire dynamics is not about that part. It's about getting through this very quickly. Now, I suppose once I get to this type of thing here, so I'm really probably dealing with this part of how it trembles and cannot really get them to sew. They have to do it themselves. So what it does is that the government feels that attack and start to reverse, but it doesn't change. So when it doesn't change, I don't want it. So it that there. So but it's that could be fully of those type of characteristics, and nobody knows. So it has to be dealt with, not it just stays there. Like this type of girl could have been something of this extremely gothic, and nobody knew. And there it has things it could be looking for, and when this is sued, you're not able to get this up because you waited too long. So it moves along. So it comes, probably I'm dealing more with this type of thing here, this part here. So this part here, would kind of, this genetics starts to reveal, so man flee, and this starts. So how do you deal with it? You deal with it quite this type of thing by seeking to pull on the child. And oftentimes it's this they're using, and these type of things, when they pull, it's probably placed like this way. This pulls on the child. You could have this, and you could have it pulls on the child. So at this level, if I am probably in that Georgia environment, could have pulled in the child this way, so the child becomes like she is being like a ventouse. So this type of retrovisor could be in one of these of going back and forth and using this mom. So it's probably better for this mom to go to the Lord and allow the universe, and it could shut the thoughts down, because you were probably the bee to shut it. Now, once she gets to here, she is not a bee. She is of that sea, massive sea. So it will say it could have seemed to bother her a little bit because it's this plus, and the plus is saying it is, and then it kind of soothes her, and then comes to whatever caricature you're acting out. So it does say so. Once she comes into that massive sphere, we're about here somewhere. So it puts her that. So I guess this part there kind of reveal that kind of rising slowly. And this is why she dwells in Purika, because Purika kind of gets her here most of the time, even with genetics. If you notice, they do have a lab, enter, out, gone. Didn't do that type of things there. Why? Ashudi was a little this way, I'm thinking. And once you get this way, you would see this level for her. And I am not a commodity that could close the lab with this. They're suspecting. So Purika could be basically genetics and shut that part down. So when you shut it down, it becomes a this completely. But just say you're disobedient, the soldiers will evacuate, and only that. But it becomes complex. Why? When the soldiers are there, I could be this way and very alert, but kind of I cannot be bothered. So if I'm there, they get this. They're thinking they kind of get this way to how they are. So over there can catch you with this type of titanium, and the girl gets out and has to deal with it. So these type of things punishes the child. So when I'm there, seeking to get out has to be mondial. Why I have to say there's a problem there. Out. This is why it slaps. Now, once we're in the United States, we cannot vouch for these things. Yes, no, I cannot be part of it. They're not understanding that when this type of obliques has a sub, it's beyond, and he gets hurt. So I would reveal you beyond somewhere of this type of genetic, and with this type of things, very difficult for them to get, so they're troubled. And this part cannot reveal anything of the child, it seems, and these parts we'll see. But this type of genetic parts is just knowing that I could live there and be safe, and it goes far. So for the rest, it kind of goes away. Now, once we get this part, we can understand why she would do this of tall. And then G'd herself. Now, the G'ing herself could be had she had an extra, this part, for example, there, and she did this, whatever, she appears to G, and leave that alone and hit that bed. Now it will say when it comes to that, when it's a G, then what we're dealing with will be this. You're thinking now, and it's not possible. This type of genetics is not possible. So the girl will say that this type of candle becomes a little layer. It's not possible. Once we get out, so what's causing that could be just this type of instead of a zip, you probably are somebody who has what is you that causing you after this to get there one, and after this to be able to make it well in this environment. See, and oftentimes in this type of ministed housing, this man would have that thing. So it says he would have to sense genetics could break that caricature with that type of man. Once he understands that part, these type of things cannot be touched. But man is not understanding that you have gone too far. So it just suits out the mom and knows that if that type of forcing could say, could we have, and it possibly can. Why the France, they probably live this way and develops. And the Petit Caillou do that part, but it push is not. So this accuses and it pulls something. just pose that funding. So it would say she could have with this genetic too late. So she needed to know of the genetic to be able to go back to Guyana as the kids get older. See, even before their grandma, and able to get, let's see, her eyes against her, like it went that far in France and it's there. So it this genetic here, and I guess that explains what this seeks. For example, this could have been placed somewhere here. If it explains how the coin work, not, then it will be investigated to be chopped up, the stamps, so see. Now, this would say up and leave that alone. But yes, dealing with them. And it could shut the door for a moment and things as the girl could feel that way, not. But if it's the man's, then it's I am presumed to be a killer creature, and I put USA. And once it does, then I cannot really with. So it kind of reveals itself this way, that way. So once we know that part, a bit, and then hesitates. I did go, I just needed a little video, it seems. I got this video, but I guess it needed a center of that, of the bee, when it had to be. And I suppose I could do it if it messed with the sustenance of that mom, then to introduce this type of plastic, of which man seemed to want to live by. So I don't know. It shuts in. How does it affect mom? I guess it does affect mom with this type of. I am presumed to be a killer creature, so it puts it as that type of A again. So once it is, I would know I probably am here now without the A in Guyana. So it would seek Tilo, and I would move it forward to this here, this type of plus, and in Guyana, like these, move it that way. Now, when it moves to that way in Guyana, it means she has a place to stay, and New Amsterdam is not part of it because of this. Just this cannot be part of it. So this is why she would escape there, only on a demotion perhaps, and then gets back there, down there. So when it does it that way, it means that Angleterre cannot. And there these things figure itself there where they got saw those things. Now once we're getting at it, says the continuation of France was necessary this way of Diana. And then it's just to understand, could it be these knowledge and pierces us little by little, and then they were closes on us, and the mom would get it right at that chest of hers based on something of a this here, and then and then she has to go quietly and then wait. So it was pressing to her, even that part of her, and knowing that is that house that it lied, and has to be revealed in a way that is very detailed because of this they're suspecting. So it could, but look, for example, Catullus could probably not throat his wife, and he's not here. This Alexander the Great could not tap upon this type of earth viciously to hurt his family, and he's not there. So whatever that feed was for the child was not allowing those. It allowed this here. I don't know, based on, I don't know, I kind of, something of that son to reveal and come in. But it's probably not to be So how would you determine that's slate? By this type of level titanium. So this is where it reveals it, and because of the illegality here, based on this type of thing, it had to pull them out daily, and did not do so because Leon cannot encourage them. It had to be a place of a salary rigor. If I went after that type of property, then it had to be able to be done by him. If they're not allowing those things, then this was too much for them, and they would learn that they cannot keep these things, and the men could leave for that part of them. So this kids may not be necessary, seeing the rigidness of the French man. So he's extremely rigid, and his circumflex spins against him and whips this of him at any the water coast. So it drifts and comes back. So for example, when the mom hit that part of her at that sinking Leon, drives her out, couldn't say a word, knowing that it had to be something this way of macro. So this type of thing was quite dangerous for this mom. Now, if when it's seeking that, can her family forsake her? They can. That's why they're thinking, because of Angleterre. So when they forsake her, what is happening in history is a bouleversement of I am presumed to be a killer creation, and there she puts it, and has to make that decision. So these type of videos are genetics. So it hits man hard and allow us to be able to soothe ourselves this way first. So the girl feels that encouragement. If not, she doesn't want to move up. But certain phenomena in life pushes us to do so, like this part of her pushes her to do so based on that creation. And then she moves back here. It's editing on discovery why it has that going on, that type of future. So it will say, and soon on. In other words, this part here, could it have it? Possibly definition complete, but we are not knowing that. Gets to this axis based on ons, this OC, and once it is, I guess it pierces on. And it would have gotten to it this way in France already. So this continues that part. Now, once it does that there, it's like this, they're suspecting here up. The mom could and realize that it becomes fatal because of her genetics. Not knowing of this was a problem. Just heading here, have to think. So it stays there, but lingers there. Here, it heights completely. So this, I cannot know, so danger. So it puts one person at the airport, and just like Samata, the complaints becomes direct police attack and cannot share that based on who she is. So they will put it against the United States and relieve them of this type of burden. Now, this warns you guys, you should not have attacked this of her. Meaning that that's what you would bring back from Creepy. So you knew of her genetics. So it's say, I have to relieve you guys from the tyrants of this land until they are this cut. So this part here, when you attack, reveals these things to the front. In other words, you wanted her to come back to that land. So you have to be careful with this type of things, this type of edges. So I guess it's very edgy. When I get here, that edge is extreme from home and her legs. So this part here is quite extreme with a white out, and this part could be extreme genetically speaking. And I cannot. She's a Kurika. It's this already. So they're finding we cannot talk to that lady at all and has to respect it this way. So once you're getting in there and you're looking for things of this, that's a blasphemy. You have to be able to stamp that passport and get her through. So this did these type of things that way and figure out this part of her life. So that had to be a top secret genetically speaking. So you attack this and it becomes a non-top secret, and I could get this part done. Now when this is done, go to sleep and let it be this of her so that these parts could be analyzed that way. So with the family, being close to the mom would feel something of a this here, this type of old leaks, and that could make them pull back. You will not feel it this way, so it kind of goes quickly. So it says it feels it with that man, but he chose to do that, he suspects. In other words, if you seek to give him, if it's seek to give him the beat, you cannot do so. They're suspecting with somebody else. It really hits this man hard with this thing. I guess it's this level of this genetics hits him hard, and he has to back out. So they're suspecting it has to be this type of boy has genetics of his original with this same type of creation killer, that boy. So he's being driven, and gets it going. So it will say to that, why when we get here, he could be extremely active. This causes him to be active in the States, so he wasn't trusted anymore. The activity is extreme for every level of the child. So when she gets here, she has to be kind of shut in and knows where her curry chicken is. Now because of it, that boy senses that he needs those things, and when he's close, it sends us away quickly. So if he shuts in, that's a killer creation of this moment, meaning that up it goes. So now it sends a message once she's that. You cannot seek it to go lesser or more of her lifespan types. And once this genetic has been determined, has to respect this. Now it shows that as you walk, I cannot seem to evacuate the belly because of this type of yawn. So that yawn could be something in DC. She is knowing these things, not Boston. So these type of things, she just. So if it's this that causes her to, in the video to be this way, then that part, somewhere in there, there's some of the ladies, this type of lean, and cannot handle it from DC. So I could have been right here in DC, and things went really topsy-turvy on the planet, and knowing it. How would she have indicated? Well, she needed her little, her aura, and then he will sense pulling that out would put this part of the child to hear all that's going on in that family. So it will say, if you're seeking those type of things, well, DC could be accused, so DC could have reacted to Boston upgone. So it will say, it says that the family was somewhere. So they will sense, and get that type of seeking. So that seeking would rise on what's here again. It shows and it comes back here. So that doesn't go quickly. It's very extensive. Like this type of flat peel, the flat peel, does these type of things, and when it does these type of things, it kind of pelts those type of things. So I guess this is why when she has this type of peeling, it does it more that way, this way, this way, and those things I suppose pelts this mom because something here could be extremely messy there, extremely. So, potential spam. Okay. Oh. So then that's not see for this part of us could be there. And so I will wrap it up. Why I recognize when I do that part, we're getting something of that needs to be analyzed this way of them having it potentially fully and doesn't need that individual except the actors thinking and has to study that part. So that will sense that things pulled out, but knows how to deal with this. Why we cannot deal with that. With this, we don't deal with those things. Our privacy is extreme, and this genetics demands of it also. So the girl, I have to a bit. So once that is done, I can wrap it up based on just getting a little things there. And I probably will have a next track of the hands of that type of president. Hands of that type of president. I would do that because he could be tapped. Hands of that type of president if he was challenged and this happens to like get out. So it reveals that, and he will see that part based on this of her, which is what he's dealing with, which is the plus of her, that type of sense, something of that nature, Troy, based on actor, so that we don't get involved ever with these things. With that being said, I think I've wrapped it up, and we'll get back to you guys, and I will see we'll be soon to this type of things. I guess I will probably have to deal with this again in terms of how it will evolutionize for us when we're together, how it seeks that soothing as before. Could it be the hurts with something of this nature? Possibly. So that part kind of puts and comes in. Why? This type of killer creation is too much to be together in America. France, you see, this level, and Guyana, the perfection is top. Oftentimes it demands that type of discussion there and cannot get there. Yes, it is, but we are not sensing animosity with things of this future, so we have to kind of flee and get that done. This, if the girl did this, then it would say this type of genetics demands by one of this they're suspecting. If she passed like a this way, then that part was still, obelisks was still active with them. So it's still active. How they will deal with it is put it out, and they put themselves that way in this land. But when it is this, he has to kind of sense that California, that is in and out, is calling him. In other words, where is that turf that I'm supposed to be doing to calm that boy? No, this goes far if it seeks to bascule, so it bascules. But could be late, why they could be pulling on the child, so you get to know them. And you have to come up with big money to do so with this type of creation. So how he would get it would be Obelix. And then we duty this type of criminals. With that being said, up, that's just complete.